I am Devin.
And I'm Rob, and we're dads.
Not daddies.
We are very excited that today's video is sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. If you follow us on social media, you know that we were in New York recently a few weeks ago, and that is all thanks to going out and visiting Johnson & Johnson, going to their headquarters.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience because not only did we learn about what Johnson & Johnson does,
which, by the way, is not just baby shampoo, because that's what we thought it was, the little pink bottle. That's part of it, but not only do they have a bunch of other consumer brands, but they do a ton of work in medical device stuff,
pharmaceuticals,
which is what we're going to talk about today.
As you can tell by the title. But we'll get to that. But I was going to say, not only did we learn about Johnson & Johnson, but we got to meet some really cool people that are well known on social media, as well as TV personalities. Also, we just got to hang around some really fierce, awesome women the whole time.
Seriously, so inspiring.
Yes. And we were just, hi, we're gay dads.
Happy to be invited. Thanks.
Yes.
Why are we here?
Yeah. We felt very fortunate to be included. So while we were there, we got to learn about the history of Johnson & Johnson.
We got to learn about some of the work that Johnson & Johnson is doing in HIV research, prevention, and treatment.
Yes. As you can see, Rob there with his cute white coat. He's in the lab learning about HIV. That was really awesome for us. We, being members of the LGBT community, feel particularly impacted by HIV, as it's something that's been prevalent in our community since the AIDS crisis, the 80s. And so hearing all the work that Johnson & Johnson has done on this was really awesome and inspiring.
So they have clinics in Africa that innovations to the point where mothers who are HIV positive are able to take medication that make it so that their kids can be born without the virus, all kinds of really cool stuff, and some innovations that we are going to talk about later in this video. So stay tuned.
Yes. Today we are going to talk about HIV and specifically how to prevent HIV. We'll talk about other aspects of it perhaps in a later video, but for today, first off, we're not doctors, we're not public health professionals, so keep that in mind and be sure to talk to your own doctor about how to prevent and treat HIV. But as people in the LGBT community, we feel a responsibility to make sure that our brothers and sisters are educated on this subject and take care of themselves, because we care about you and we want you to be happy and healthy.
Yes. That being said, who is at the highest risk? Members of the LGBT community are high at risk. People who are particularly at risk are men who have sex with men. The trans community is obviously included in that. And it should be noted that people in situations of poverty and also people of color are at much higher risk. But in actuality, anyone who is sexually active is at risk of contracting HIV. So
keep that in mind. Yes.
Keep that in mind.
So how do you get HIV? Well, it's pretty straightforward. It's through sexual fluids or through blood. And, there's some misconceptions out there. You can't get it from sitting on a public toilet seat. You can't get it from shaking hands or from kissing. It's definitely through sexual contact.
Or blood-to-blood contact.
Yeah, like a blood transfusion that was done wrong. That sort of thing.
So, now that we know how HIV is contracted, we can talk about how to prevent it. That's going to show up on the microphone. We'll wait. Stop it. And we're back. So now that we know how HIV is transmitted, we can talk about how to prevent it.
Yes.
Honestly, the only way to truly prevent any STI is by not having sex.
However, studies have shown that abstinence-only education is not only ineffective, but also medically unethical. It doesn't actually keep people from having sex. The next best thing is to educate people on ways that they can prevent it upon having sex.
Right. So first and foremost, condom use is one of the best ways to prevent any STI, including HIV. Obviously, it's not 100%, but having a physical barrier is one of the main ways to prevent contracting STIs, including HIV.
Yes. So one major method of HIV prevention, thanks to modern technology, is called PrEP.
PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and it is a pill that you take once a day that essentially prevents the HIV virus from taking hold when you are exposed to it.
Yes.
Again, this is also not 100% effective because scientists can't really say that anything is 100% effective, but in their studies they have found that it's like 99.9% effective in preventing HIV transmission, which is really cool. The problem with PrEP is that it requires you to take the pill every day, and anytime you are required to do something actively, there's a chance that you don't do it. And so public health professionals have seen that that is one challenge that comes with expecting PrEP to prevent HIV transmission, because people don't always take the pill every day, and that's what's necessary for it to be as effective as the studies show.
And then the other method of prevention is called PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis.
So post-exposure prophylaxis means it's something that you take after you believe that you have been exposed to HIV virus. So within 72 hours of coming in contact with the HIV virus, you can get on a regimen of PEP, which I believe is a month of daily pills, and there's a specific medication regimen. Talk to your health professional if you believe you need this sort of thing. We'll include some links down below for some more education. And I frankly wish that I had known about this, because early on when I had first come out and exploring my sexuality, as you do, I received an anonymous message that I could have been exposed to HIV and chlamydia or one of the others. And I panicked, because I had never gone through this before and was unsure of my options or anything like that. If I had known that PEP was an option, I absolutely would have gone through that regimen, purely for the peace of mind of knowing that I was protecting myself. So there are options even after exposure.
Yep. And so both PrEP and PEP are pills that you can take. Talk to your doctor about them. We'll include links down below, so you can get more information on those, because it's really important for you to be educated on this if you're not already.
So this brings us to one of the most exciting parts of our trip, meeting with Johnson & Johnson. They've been involved in so much research and so much work to eradicate HIV, and the most recent step in that they announced while we were in New York.
Yes. So while we were there, we actually got to meet the Chief Scientific Officer of Johnson & Johnson. His name is Paul Stoffels. And keep this in mind, if you ever meet your hero, it will be in dim lighting, as you can see.
Did not get a great photo.
No, but this man, truly an inspiring person to us because of the 30 plus years of his career that he's put into HIV research and treatment, and so much progress that has been made in the research and treatment of HIV has been because of him and his team. So it was really inspiring to meet him, and also to hear the big announcement from him on what's happening on the forefront of an HIV vaccine.
So Johnson & Johnson shared with us that they are currently in large-scale clinical trials in sub-Saharan Africa testing a vaccine against HIV. So despite the fact that we have lots of options to help prevent HIV, a vaccine where you take a series of shots and have immunity for life is so groundbreaking and such a huge part of, especially in these, especially in places like Africa where it is so rampant and accessibility to a daily pill is not necessarily reasonable for people. Taking a series of shots and having that immunity for life is really exciting.
That would mean so much for the LGBT community in particular, as HIV has put a huge stigma on our community, especially as the LGBT community has been heavily affected by it since the AIDS crisis in the 80s. So we feel really excited about this. We love to be able to work with companies that are passionate about doing good and saving lives.
Yeah, and Johnson & Johnson really does take their job and the fact that they have so many resources to be able to improve the health of humanity at large very seriously. And it was just really cool to be a part of it.
Yeah. A small part, mind you, but we're happy to be sharing this with you, and we hope that you will educate yourself and talk to your own health professionals about preventing yourself from getting HIV, and know that there's so much helpful information out there. So please educate yourself and take care of yourself, because we care about you.
Yeah. Anyway, we know that this video is a little more serious than most of the stuff that we do, but we're super passionate about sharing with you all really valuable information that frankly could save your life.
Yeah.
And also like really cool innovations that are happening in the world to better humanity and especially our community. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more from us, be sure to subscribe and
Have a good one.
and that's all. See you next time.
Bye.